Hello and welcome to Scale Your Sales podcast. Now, I met our next guest while speaking at Women in Sales Summit. Now, she was sharing her perspective as a millennial and a female in sales. So I thought it was really important to get her on the podcast and really hear about what her experience is. So Camilla Hasler has worked in sales for over 10 years. She has met her sales targets in really some challenging market conditions and industries. Camilla has developed her sales career and navigated many sales teams. She feels that this has enabled her to lead a better life. She would like to help other salespeople who want more success in their life and the world. So welcome to the Scale Your Sales podcast, Camilla.
Thank you, Janice. It's a real pleasure to be here. Thank you very much. I've really enjoyed listening to the other podcasts so far as well. It's been great.
Excellent, excellent. And thank you for mentioning all the others as well. So hopefully our listeners will not only listen to this one, but go back and listen to the others as well. But first, I'd like to start with, how did you start in sales? What was the thing that attracted you in?
Well, it's a really great question, Janice. Actually, I discovered it was talking on the phone, and it was, talking to clients and prospects on the phone. I found I really enjoyed it. I was doing this on behalf of a company, speaking to, some well-known brands like, anyone from Royal Mail to Mercedes-Benz, speaking to their clients. And, it was that sense of having an outcome and making an impact in terms of informing the decision of a consumer or potentially, client for them, which I found really exciting. It was, it was live. I could change that outcome.
But how did you get into that position in the first place?
Well, so I was actually working in a telemarketing role. So telemarketing and more, I went from that onto a client service role as well. And from that, things kind of progressed. So it very much wasn't like a definite path. And I would absolutely say that if somebody had asked me a few years before, I wouldn't have predicted that I would have ended up in sales. But again, I think, for your listeners, it's helpful for them to know that, I feel it was, the best decision I made, and that, the fact that I hadn't had a path, the fact I didn't feel it was a vocation before didn't change anything in terms of, my wanting to do it and the results I got from that.
Excellent. Thank you for that. So, looking at B2B buying behaviors, what has changed? Because in the last 10 years, moving from telesales, being out in the field, surely you've seen quite a lot of changes in the expectation of buyers, and whether salespeople are still playing the same role as they did 10 years ago. Has that changed?
Yes, absolutely. I think it has, Janice. I think so 10 years ago, part of my sales role was, directly closing sales with these were small businesses. I was often having to get card details over the phone. Again, nowadays, it's changed so much in terms of contracts and the whole process. Really, we don't accept card details and all sorts of things like that. But in other ways too, I think sales has become more virtual. There's more video calls, more emails, rather than about 10 years ago, where it was, there were lots of face-to-face meetings and salespeople going out in the field to find clients as well.
So tell me a bit more about your company. What do you actually do for your clients? Because a lot of people may have heard of Nielsen's but not really understand what they do.
Yes. Yeah. So Nielsen has been, it's been in the UK for over 80 years now. And Nielsen is a measurement company. So they specialize in measuring, so what people buy online, in stores, what people watch on TV. There's a huge range of, they can help brands to effectively measure their advertising and marketing efforts as well. Now, my specific role and what I do for my clients is really to navigate from the key offerings that that Nielsen have and recommend the best options for my clients, who are generally small to medium enterprises. So Janice, they really need, as it were, the maximum from whatever data option they're choosing.
Right. So, but what does that actually mean? You know, how does that help a small business?
Well, I think two things. So where you say, what does that mean? I think so just going back slightly in terms of, you know, my role. So there's a lot of data options out there. They need to understand how Nielsen data options are different, how they can help to really scale and leverage their opportunities with primarily retail buyers, also though in terms of investors. So the data options that I will be discussing with them will be making the difference between potentially getting a listing in a major retailer or potentially having to, get the all-important investment in order to take their businesses to the next level. So it's a very pivotal time for these SMEs, and really that data helps to explain and really, as it were, give a key metric that people trust and kind of understand in terms of the marketplace and exactly what's happening, whether that's, you know, total UK or in a specific retailer. So
does it help businesses make decisions as to where they're going to invest for the future because of the market, where their customers, where their market is moving?
That's right. Yes, it does, Janice. So in terms of, so if they want to potentially launch in a new category or in a new retailer, they need to understand, you know, who's there at the moment, what products are in that area. So there's that. There's also in terms of, you know, many manufacturers are just not aware of the wider landscape in terms of the categories they're already in as well. So there's that sense of needing to reference and have access to data and a report so that you can, you know, see the actual sales, understand directly what's happening, rather than, you know, get an instinct or make a decision based on, you know, perhaps an assumption, which nowadays, you know, won't necessarily carry a lot of weight with retailers and buyers.
I remember when I did my MBA, and in the kind of a lot of the data that I came across in the research that I did, and that's where I came across Nielsen's. But surely that's also relevant to large businesses as well.
Absolutely. So I think, and when you and I were talking at the Sales Summit as well, so yes, Nielsen has been in the marketplace for a long time and has been working with, you know, some really major large consumer goods manufacturers for many years, and is very proud of those relationships. But at the same time, you know, Nielsen has to, you know, really acknowledge and understand that the market is changing. There's many SMEs emerging and, you know, really exploding in certain categories in particular. So again, to really shift and stay current is important as well for the business. So you know, we're really keen to work with these growing businesses, as well as you know, our established larger clients who obviously we're also very proud of working with too.
Excellent. Now, I just want to go back to, you know, how we met and the work that you were doing in encouraging more women into sales and sharing your experience. So let's talk a bit about diversity in sales. What's your view? Is there an issue? How can we encourage more women into sales? What are really the kind of like the blocks?
Yes. So firstly, I think it is really important that you know, I you know, speak up and I'm open about what, you know, my experience is, and I would say, Janice, that, you know, I've worked across teams, you know, maybe 12 to 14 different teams, sales teams, in terms of gender balance, in terms of balance of ethnicities. You know, to date, I haven't experienced that. So I definitely think there is work to be done within, you know, right across, you know, any industry, amongst the sales teams, to ensure that they are, you know, reflective of also our clients. It's, you know, both from a profit perspective, but also in terms of just having those diverse perspectives. And yes, at the Sales Summit, that was exactly so. That panel that I took part in, you know, Nielsen as a company has made great strides for about the last 10 years. You know, they formed the Pride ERG, and they formed a number of others. Adept was a recent ERG they formed as well for able and disabled employees. So again, Nielsen are, I would say, you know, very much aware of the need as a company to do more. But as you know, in terms of what I've experienced and what I've seen, awareness isn't the only thing. There also needs to be that important action and the steps and the willingness across employers to really change things. And that's where I think, you know, I and other, you know, others involved in sales can make a difference by, you know, by raising it, by discussing it, you know, in our team meetings, in our wider company meetings, and just asking those questions, you know, in terms of, you know, whether it's pay or other aspects of diversity as well.
Let me ask you perhaps about your bosses or mentors. Who are the people that have really helped you in your career?
So I would say, so it's, in recent years, I've had the real benefit of having several really brilliant mentors. Right now at Nielsen, I have a mentor who's, you know, a marketing director, and again, her perspective, her advice has been, you know, it's made a huge difference for me in some challenging situations. So I feel very lucky to have had the opportunity to have, you know, a mentor of that caliber. I have also had whilst I've been at Nielsen, the opportunity to take part in running and growing the mentoring program. And again, that's given me the opportunity to understand, you know, for others as well, the importance that having a mentor can make, but with the all important willingness of the mentee to really learn and grow. And, you know, I think I've never had as such a mentor who's a boss. I've always tended to have mentors outside of my own, as it were, immediate team, and in some ways that can really help to give a broader perspective. And, you know, I've been able to network in the wider business as well. So yeah, I would definitely say, you know, my mentor Alison has made a huge difference for me at Nielsen, and I'm very grateful.
Do you think it's made a difference, her being a senior female?
Yes, I do as well, Janice. Absolutely. I think in terms of sometimes, you know, within a company, it's not necessarily, it relies very much on the program and the, as it were, fluidity of that program to allow people to say, you know, I actually said I'd like to work with that mentor. And again, in certain programs that might not be possible. It all relies on, you know, the corporate culture and that willingness of the mentor as well, I think, to make themselves available and work with someone who is perhaps less senior, but really in terms of developing those soft skills and that understanding of what it takes to become a senior female leader within an organization. You know, it can only come from someone who's actually there and doing it. So yes, no, it's definitely made a difference, and having that female mentor influence as well.
So it seems, you know, one thing that's really made a difference is actually having a female role model and having more women that are demonstrating their and sharing their experience at the top seems to be quite important.
Yes, I would definitely say that, and there've been several Nielsen events as well, internationally around diversity and inclusion. There've been a series of 4 talks, again, all with more senior leadership taking part and very openly sharing in terms of their experiences of diversity. And again, I think it is a sense of, you know, modeling and learning from, ideally, yeah, the most senior sort of members of the company, and the fact that they're female too. That can be great as a female in the business to see and observe.
So you mentioned to me about how sales has enabled you to have a better life. Yes. Now I'm really interested in where you see yourself perhaps in 10 years time in terms of your sales career.
Yeah, so I think so where I say where I see myself in 10 years time would be teaching, helping others to grow in terms of their sales, you know, their sales confidence, in particular females in sales, but also anyone in sales. You know, I'd love to help others to have that sense of strategy and technique, to really help them to flourish in a sales environment. I feel like, yes, being part of sales in a sales career, it's given me both from a material sense, but also from a sense of accomplishment as well, Janice. When you, making those sales, seeing, being part of those deals and working with some fantastic clients and brands, all of that has given me such a sense of, the amazing opportunity and sort of benefits that sales can bring. And so, yes, definitely in terms of perceptions that people may have about, should I have a sales career, I'd love to help others to see that yes, it's a fantastic career and opportunity.
What do you think is the best and the worst aspect of working in sales?
So
for you,
I think
your experience.
me, in terms of my experience, so yes, I would say, so the best aspect for me of working in sales is in some ways the variety. I'm working with new clients constantly. I'm having the opportunity to learn about them and their businesses, and I think that's fantastic. It's also very interesting as well, because companies do vary, and learning the nuances, understanding their strategies. I get to really be close to what they're looking to do, and that from an intellectual perspective gives me a real kind of motivation. In terms of what I think the negatives of being within a sales role are, I guess, compared to some other roles, there is more of a sense of pressure and expectation. Now, it very much depends on the individual how they view that, but I think it's something to acknowledge and be open about, that yes, in terms of a sales role, it's not just as it were, a 9 to 5, that there's an expectation, there's always a goal that you're aiming for, both financially, well, mainly financially, and yes, so in that way, that could be seen as a negative by some. I think for me, it's always been fine, but again, I just call that out as the pressure behind that, as a, it's important to take time out and to really restore in between, obviously, that kind of sales week that we all go through.
Excellent. Well, this is the last question. I'd love to know, who is your hero or shero, and why?
Okay, so my shero at the moment is Sonia Ricotti. And my hero at the moment is Brendon Bouchard. And the reason those are both my hero and my shero at the moment is because I get so much inspiration from hearing their strategies around, so in Sonia's case, it's meditation and relaxation, but in Brendon's case, he's giving people, real motivation and confidence to go into life and really get the best from it. And I think, both of them are fantastic for wanting to do that, wanting to give that back to everyone. And I certainly get a lot from both of them.
Well, I really appreciate you sharing your perspective as a millennial, working in sales. It's been very, very enlightening. So tell us how we can get in contact with you, Camilla.
So the best way, Janice, is LinkedIn. I'm a big LinkedIn user. So yeah, I would say reach out to me on LinkedIn, and I'll definitely get back in touch with anyone who's interested in speaking more.
Thank you for being a guest on Scale Your Sales podcast, Camilla.
Thank you very much. Thank you so much for having me.